and Merry Christmas. Welcome to my now 4 subscribers. So thanks Mum, thanks Amber, I know you're there, and for the other two guys who've subscribed. I'm going to make a mix of videos. I think I've said it on one of my other videos, a mix of videos, and this video is going to be all about route planning. So I'm planning to go and do the Rapha 500, which is basically 500 kilometers riding between from Christmas Eve until New Year's Eve, 500 kilometers, and you're not allowed to do it indoors. It's all got to be outdoor riding. So that's my little challenge. So this is a little bit of route planning, and I thought it'd be a good idea actually just to talk about route planning. So the route planning that I've chosen to look at, the one I use is my Garmin. So Garmin COnnect, so it supports my Garmin itself. So this is the Edge 1030, and I've had the 200 and the 1000 in the past. So that will be the route planning itself. So I'll show you how that Garmin COnnect works and the good sides of that, because there is a nice feature that I really like that matches in with the Garmin, and I'll explain on the Garmin as well how that works. I'll then go through the detailed planning that I go into for a long distance ride. So there's quite a lot in there, and it's maybe a little bit over the top for your normal ride. So a normal ride, if it's 20 or 30 miles, I won't even bother. If it's 50, 60, 70 miles, I'll plan a route. If it's 90, 100 or anything over that, I'll do a little bit more, and so on and so on. So the more you do, and I know the whole idea is to be adventurous with the riding. But there's nothing to say you can't have a base route that you know pretty well and you deviate off that if you want to cut a corner, you want to cut a bit of time off. I personally like having the challenge of a little bit of time to try to work out what time I need to be at a certain place. Okay, what am I going to make it? No, okay, I can cut a corner. I like that. It's a bit more of a challenge, keeps a little bit of mental maths going, keeps me entertained on a long ride in the wet. So that's what it's going to be about. So I hope it's of some use. Follow on, my next video will be a ride, which will be a series of rides, which will be the Rapha 500.
Okay, so this is Garmin COnnect. I use it because I've got a Garmin, and it's not necessarily the best on the market or the best software out there, but it's got some features which I really like, which interact with the Garmin. So course points is something that I really like. So why I use it then? So over on the left hand side here, down here we've got training and courses. This pulls up all my courses that I've saved. And down the bottom here you can import a course, or you can create a course, which is what I'm going to do. These are all my saved ones, and you can sort by distance and all sorts of things. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to create one. So obviously the map over here with the map options, I use terrain almost all the time. That's my preference, that one. And then you'll see some more options appear down here. And you can go into open maps and here maps. I've never really tried those, but worth having a look. Okay, so let's create a course then. So I'm not sure what the difference is between these, but we'll do road cycling, continue, and I think we're in. Now just zoom into where I'm going to start. So the first thing you're going to do is select your start location. So just keep zooming in. There we go. So we're going to start about here. There's my start location. You see, you get this icon. You should get a proper icon, a green one in there, but it never seems to appear for me. Well, I'm going to head up to Weston-super-Mare is one point, and I'm going to head all the way up to the pier. Okay, when you select a point on here, you then have to wait for it to work out the elevation before you can interact with anything, which is a bit of a pain, if I'm honest. It really does delay things. Okay, then I'm going to come on to this, what's called the strawberry line. It's a cycle route. So it's going to pull me in from here. Okay, right. And here's one of the problems that we get. we've got this popularity routing, so it takes you all over the place, not necessarily the quickest route. So what I'm going to have to do is undo those two. I'll undo that one and I'll redo this one here later. So I'm going to select follow route, follow roads rather, back into the strawberry line, select it. Okay, and now it's gone for the shortest route. Okay, I'm then going to come around. I want to go into Cheddar and go up the gorge. And then I'll carry on doing it like this. Okay, now we've done that, I'll just show you some of the other features. So over on the right hand side you've got course points, which I'll come on to in a second, which are just really handy. Basically they're markers that you can put on your route that appear on your Garmin. You can put one at a summit and it will give you the number of feet to that feet of climbing that you need to do to get there, which is great. If you put it at the summit, you know you've got 200 feet to go and it's pretty accurate. Another one is you can just have the distance to that point. So although you know your distance for your whole route, you can have on Garmin. You can also have your course point distance, so you know the distance to your next stop or your or whatever you've got in the system. But I'll show you those in a second. Then obviously got mile markers. I use miles, imperial. I've tried kilometers, just I can't get my head around it. Weirdly, and you can have bike lanes, etc. And then over here you've got your total distance, your elevation gain and loss, your pace calculator, which I'll come back onto later on, which I find really useful. You can undo whatever you've done. You can go back to the loop, back to the start rather, out and back. I've never used these really. Reverse direction I use now and then if I'm going out to somewhere and the next day come back, and then you can add a course point, which is the way you do it. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is to zoom in and just check that basically the route roughly goes the way I want it to go, and there it doesn't. So I want to create a point here. So I want to grab this here. I want to come down that way. Woo. If you don't do it quickly enough, it dumps. There you go. So that's the way I want to go. Yeah, through there. I don't quite want to do that little leg there. So I want to come up there, so I'll drop a point there so it holds that. And now I've got one point there and a point there, so all I'm going to do is drag this bit here to the way that I want to go. And that works. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to carry on and just continue doing this. And just make sure that it roughly follows the route that I want. And here again I want to avoid this bit here, so the main road, so I'm just going to, I know there's a cycle path this side of it, so if I'm going to dump a point in there, and I want to cross over, I'll let it, this is the problem, you have to wait for it to draw. There you go, so I'm going to drag it over to here, and I'll drop a point there. And here, I'm going to drag this to cross over at that location. And there you go, that'll route that in. You can see here what it's done is look at the popularity routing, and it's tried to take that. Now, even though I've got follow roads, for some reason it goes for this popularity routing, and it's taking me along the beach because a lot of people cycle down along the beach. And not on my bike, and not with my wet lube on, so I'm going to have to drag that in and say no, I'm going to have to follow the roads. There we go. Okay, there we go. So I've got the route is roughly the right route that I want. I've got 85 miles, So now what I'm going to do is just do a little bit more detailed areas that I don't recognise. So what you don't want is for you to end up going down some track, and this has caught me out a number of times. So I know this route here, I know that all of that pretty well, so I'm not concerned by any of this. I've cycled this route quite a few times, so this is all fine. Here around here is new to me. I don't normally come up this way, I normally pop around this side here. So I'm just going to go and have a look in at this a little bit more. And then what I use is pull up my satellite imagery. Okay, what I look for are fields, particularly in the UK, which help define where a road would be, where a path probably wouldn't be. I look for buildings along there as well, so if there are buildings along there, it means that cars have to have access, so there, I'm not worried about around here. And what you can also do is look at the naming of it as well. So there I can see it says it's something road, so I know that is a proper road up there. I've got some buildings, I've got a road here, I can see it's saying Ham Road. Okay, so I'll come around here, and this doesn't look like a road. So let's just zoom in and have a quick look at that. Right, so it's taking me around a path. Now hopefully I do have access to that path, but quite often, there we go, so that's a company, it may have a gate in here, but just prevents it. So what I could do is have a look at popularity routing. Let's see there, so you do have some routing. This is probably people who are actually staying in the park. I probably don't have access to this. Okay, so I'm going to have to avoid this area, so if I drop a point there, point here, I don't think I'm going to be able to get through there, and then run into a track. Lots of rain recently, so I just want to avoid it, so I'd rather do that. Okay, so you can see the popularity routing now that I've turned on. So there is this route along here is quite popular, but I think that's probably people from the caravan park going into there, and it's probably during the summer. This is a track, that's fields around there, so I'm not too keen on doing that. But you can see the sort of routes. I think it's a really nice feature to be able to have, and the more you zoom in, the more detail that you get on those routes. So a quick way of finding whether you think you can get through somewhere is use this popularity routing over here. And we'll turn that off again now though, just while in fact I'll leave it on while I just check the rest of the route. Okay, so here, that was a bad call, so there's my drive, but now I'm going into what looks like a path, but it certainly doesn't look like a road. So I've got a road in here of some sort, yeah, but so I don't want to be going this way. So people do use this because I can see the popularity routing purple area, so I'm not going to do this route. So what I need to do then is delete this point here because I want to reroute around this way. So I want to delete that point, so right click on it, delete, and generally you can do 2 in a row before you have to let the system sit down and work and recover. There we go, we're waiting again, and delete. Okay, and now I'm just going to drag it if I can, but I can't drag it until it's done its little bit of calculation. There we go. And I'm going to have to accept going this way on the main road, which I avoid like the plague. There we go. And now I'll carry on checking it. Okay, so here's a bit where I've got an A road going all the way through. It may be a bit faster, but I avoid them like the plague. So I'm just going to drop a point in there, point it up here, and just drag myself down to this route here. There we go. Avoid a bit more of the A roads and a bit more chance of surviving. Okay, so how to do add a course point is up here. So I want to stop in Weston for a coffee, so I want to have that as one of my markers. And so on my device it will tell me the distance to this marker. So select that, choose a position, sometimes it doesn't. There we go, this is going to be a coffee stop. So up to here. These are all different ones you can have. You can have a summit. I use this as a 24-hour garage. Food, water, so I'm just going to have a water stop, and then I just put in here Weston-super-Mare. Okay, and then just save the point at the bottom. And there we go. I'll put a couple more in. So this one is the bottom of the climb for Cheddar Gorge. This is where the segment starts on Strava, so I might as well use that point there. So again, add a point. Whichever one you want to use, really. It's a climb. It's the first proper climb that I'm doing, the only climb, so I'm just going to stick that in. And the last bit, just going to stick in a summit. This is really good because it shows on the Garmin the elevation climbing left to that course point, and it's pretty accurate. So if I stick that in, I want to take this point up here as the end of it's not the end of the segment, which I think ends about here. But I'm going to stick that in there. That is a summit. And it means on the Garmin it comes up with a slightly different symbol for all of these, so you can see there you go, so it comes up with that symbol. And I'll put the rest in. Now what you can do, just to work out where things are over here, what I can do is just expand it. That's the top of the climb there, and you can see that as I move it around on here, the point on the map moves. So I can pick the point. Yes, that's the top of the climb about there, so just look at where it is. Now I'm going to add a point there on that location. Okay, and before we go into the next bit, I'll just show you where you name it. So there's the name of the file you're going to have. Into edit, type in what you want. Okay, and then over here, obviously this is your elevation, or you've got your pace calculator, and you can put in your average speed that you think you're going to make, or you can put a time in, but I'm going to refine this later on. So while I'm putting in these numbers now, I'm going to update those later, and then you save your changes. Okay, now you've done that, you can send it to the device if you've got your device plugged in, and that will go through Garmin Express. Alternatively, what you can also do, you can edit this route. You can create a duplicate, so you can create a duplicate from a route that you've already got and then just modify it. You can download it as a GPX or a FIT file, or obviously you can delete it. So what I'm going to do is just download the GPX file, and I'll show you what I'll do with that next. Okay, I use something called Memory Map. This is a phase of route planning. I don't normally do this for a normal route, but for a long distance route I probably would do it. And there are lots of different options out there. Here I'm just using Memory Map, so I'm just going to shift my mapping across, and I just zoom in and look at the road mapping, so that making sure that my route actually follows roads. Where it doesn't, I know that there's a possibility that actually it's going down a trail or something like that. So here I've got a little bit of concern, so I might just shift my mapping and just go and check. Yeah, so that's absolutely fine. So I'll do this around the rest of the route. Okay, what you can also do is use Google Earth, which is a really good tool. So this again is only what I'd use for a long distance ride, certainly somewhere that I'm not familiar with. So all I'm going to do is go up and import. There we go, so there's my route in there as a GPX. And now I'd certainly look through this and just work out. It's a little bit quicker than the satellite mapping on the other software. Hopefully I've found all the little points that are going to be problems, but it allows me to now go and have a detailed look. What of course you can also do is I zoom into this Breen area as an example, and if I had any doubts about anything, what I can always do is obviously just drop myself in and go and have a quick look to make sure that that is a suitable road. So what's the road surface like? If it was a trail or something like that, I can go and have a look at the entrance to the trail and the exit to the trail just to see if they look reasonable. And I know where there is one trail, so I'll just zoom out and go and try and find it. Okay, so it's got some elevation errors in there. So it's basically saying I need to turn up here up the strawberry line. So I'm going to drop myself into there and have a quick check. Okay, so notes around here. There we go. So yeah, it looks like it's a paved path, and it is. It's a cycle path. Okay, and what you can also obviously do is look at the terrain that you're going to be on. So you've got a little bit of a 3D view of where you're going to be going. Okay, so Google Earth's got real utility, and particularly the street view option, where you can, if you're in any doubt about somewhere, you can just drop in, go and have a look. So I would do that if I was doing a long route. I would do that for pretty much everything. Okay, the final little bit, which I sometimes do if I want to get my timings right, because sometimes you want to, the cafe opens at 10, there's no point turning up there at 9, so I adjust all my timings so I get to the right place at the right time. I know when it's going to get dark, I know I'm going to be off the main roads by the time it gets dark, I know I'm going to be stopping at traffic lights and all that sort of thing. I'm going to be stopping to have coffee breaks and so on, so it allows me to get a rough idea for my timings, and actually it's something to follow, some sort of little goal to try and hit your timings. So this is how I do it. I've built my own little spreadsheet which I'll talk through. So this is the start and the finish. These are the different points I'm going to get to. That's my start time up there, and so that's my finish time. These are the delays that I'm going to have in the various locations, so I'll just clear those for now from an old one. This is so my time that I'm departing this point is there, and the time the time I arrive at the point is there. Bit of a delay, and then that's the time I'm going to depart there. That's the distance remaining of the whole leg. That is the total distance in miles, which I'll show you how I put that in a second. Leg distance, so for that leg that I've just put in, the average speed that I think I'm going to do. So that's my moving time. And then I add some additional time on, so you're always going to be stopping to sort bits and bobs out. I always add on between 10 and 15%, so here I'm just putting 15%, so whatever time I put in here it's going to add 15% and give me another time, and that works really nicely, that number, and that gives me my total leg time. So here are the totals: total moving time, added time, and total leg time. And then over here I've got stuff repeated, how much time I'm going to spend at delays, which is this time over here while I'm stopping for a coffee or whatever, and that's my elapsed time, which is the same as this figure over here. That is the elapsed time that I'd need if I was doing Audax UK, so I know that if I was ever going to do that, I'd just work that out. My moving average in miles per hour and then kilometers, and then my elapsed average, so including all the stops and everything else, that is actually over the entire ride what I've averaged. So this is effectively where your Garmin pauses when you stop, and it should come out with that sort of average. But this is if you're doing Audax, then this will be your elapsed average. Okay, so I'm just going to put the figures in. I'll put the places in first. Okay, so there are all the place names in that I've got. Now I'm just going to zoom in and just put the distances in. So start is clearly going to be 0. Bridgewater, so this is where you use your mile markers in here. So Bridgewater is about 16 miles. I'm not going to be too precise about it all. Western is about 38, and I'll do the rest. Okay, so there are all the distances, and then the final distance is, the total distance is down in here, 87. And there we go. Now we're just going to update my speeds. There you go, there's the speeds. So from Cheddar to the summit, I'm going to be a little bit slower. It's not very far, it's only over, in fact that's Cheddar, so I've got these wrong one around. There you go, so that's 10. 15.5. Okay, so there's speeds in, and then delay time. So I probably don't want to stop at Bridgewater, but I just want to know that I'm getting to what time I'm going to get to Bridgewater. Western, yeah, I want to stop there. Probably stop for 30 minutes. So no hours and 30 minutes. And you can change the formatting of this, obviously. In Cheddar, I'm not going to stop. In Wales, I am going to stop for some lunch. Probably give myself 40 minutes, provided it's not too cold. And there we go. So I can look at the timings. So what time am I going to get to Western? It's going to be on a Monday, so the shops are going to be open, they're going to be cafes open. So I want to set off as early as I can. They're probably all going to, I know the one I'm going to go to opens at 9 o'clock, so I'm just going to drop this back. There we go, so if I set off at 10 past 6 and I get to Western about 9 o'clock, 30 minutes stop there, and I'll get to Wells about 11:30, an early lunch, and then back, and I should get home really by 2 o'clock. And there we go, 11.3 is my elapsed average. Okay, so 11.3, 15.2 is what I think I'm going to average, but with all the stops, 11.3. So what I can then do over here is go into my route, edit it, okay, edit it there, and into the pace calculator. Now if I was doing an Audax, I'd put in 11.3 into here, because it wouldn't, I don't pause my recordings if I stop, so I'd keep those going on my profile, my Audax profile. But if I'm just doing a normal bike ride, I want to use the moving time, so 15.2 go into there. There you go, so that's the moving average and moving time. If I was doing an Audax, I'll put in my 11.3. And then down here, there we go, 7:44. Over here I've got 7:43, so pretty much the same. And that's it really. In fact, I'll leave it as I'll choose my Audax setting, and there we go. And then hit save. And now this is all ready to upload to my Garmin, which I do by the mobile app. So this is obviously now saved on my profile. I then go onto my mobile app. I can upload there directly via Bluetooth straight to my phone, and that's it. And then I'll probably print this off and take this with me, just so I've got a rough idea about the times, what time I'm going to be in various places. And there you go. if you message me below if you want a copy of this, happy to email that out to anyone. But there we go. Hope that was of some use, and a few little tips in there on using Garmin COnnect. Okay, so this is one of the pages for the Garmin COnnect. So once you've got your course points in, each of these course points has got its own line. We've got the name, you've got the distance, and you've got the time that it's predicting. I'm not sure what this time is based on, but it's reasonably accurate. And you've got the little symbol to denote what it is. So this is one page that's available with Garmin COnnect if you use the course pointers. Okay, and if you use the course pointers, then for the elevation field, for example, down here, I've got the ascent to the course point. So as I'm doing my climb, I know I've got 875 feet left until the next course point in the climb, so I can place it on a summit and have that information, and that is pretty accurate. I'm quite impressed with how accurate that is. Okay, and finally, the other option you've got with the course points is to have course points distance over here. So as well as my time, my total for the entire leg, or sorry, the entire route, then I've also got the distance to the next course point. So I know I'm 20 miles from the next food stop, for example. Okay, well that's the video then, so I hope you got something from that. So we've covered Garmin COnnect and the little benefits of that, a little bit of route recce, which is always worth doing, and just how I go about working out my timings. And I think the timings are not rigid, I don't stick to them, but I take it as a bit of a personal challenge. If I can try and hit those timings, get to that place on time, makes the trip a little bit more enjoyable for me, and it means I get to the cafe stop on time, I get to my lunch on time, and importantly I get home on time so I can spend some time with the family. Anyway, that's my video. Next one will be hopefully the Rafa 500.